Good evening, guys. It's Phil. It's All Leeds TV, and we are back with another big match preview. And we've got some very fun faces with us tonight. We have the man who is definitely alive, despite me telling everyone he's been dead for weeks. Oscar probably has no idea what I'm referring to, but that is you, Oscar.
I do. It's like your 0.5s on player ratings, Phil. It depresses me so much. I've just got over it now.
And we have a man who now refers to himself as Crumble Man, because fuck all else to him. Mike, how you doing?
Yeah, I'm good, thanks, mate. You?
It's good, mate. It's good to have you back. I have missed you. There's been no whipping boy because Martin's not quite the same level of take it, to be fair.
What can I say?
Although the facial hair would insinuate. Martin, how are we doing?
We're good. We're good indeed. Very much looking forward to whipping Frank's ass tomorrow, to be honest.
Yeah. Good. I'm pretty sure that's why we are all here. I think Frank Lampard is the only reason we've managed to drag Oscar away from the Just Joe channel.
Oh, he said that little thing. I was thinking, when's it going to come in? Well, we're 1 minute 20 in and he's got it in there.
Yeah, I couldn't help myself. It had to come. So obviously we're here to talk about Everton away, and Fat Frank has obviously taken over. He's had two very mixed games, one in the FA Cup, which we obviously don't mess around with that kind of shit. And then the league, where we absolutely do mess around with that kind of shit and look at the table. But interesting seasons for both of us. Oscar, tell us about how you feel the season has gone for the two sides. And you are obviously from that part of the world. So what's the perception in your area of the Rafa Benitez to Lampard change?
Well, it's a weird one because I think anyone that came in instead of Benitez was always going to be popular just because of how unpopular Rafa Benitez was. I can't believe Benitez managed to see past the Merseyside derby. I thought it'd be sacked the day after that when they got absolutely battered. I think it was the start of December. They got absolutely battered by Liverpool. And they just seemed to be really reluctant to sack him. I still think Benitez is a very good manager. I just think it was never going to work at Everton. You can't have a Liverpool legend who's either go at Everton in the past, managing Everton. It just sums up that football club. They make crazy, illogical decisions, and that's what they've done for pretty much since David Moyes left the club. To be honest, the last 10 years, Everton have been really illogical. So I wasn't massively surprised Rafa got the job, as controversial as it was. Lampard's come in. Again, I don't know. I think it's a bit of a strange one. I thought they were going to give Duncan Ferguson the job till the end of the season and then reassess from there. I really did. Yeah. Although they did have a really bad defeat against against Aston Villa at home. Whether that changed kind of like the board's decision, they felt they had to act and get a different manager in. That's obviously what they've done. Lampard and Benitez are polar opposites in terms of play style. Lampard, I think tomorrow Everton will be trying to play out the back against us, and I'm looking at their team, the likes of Michael Keane. I think we can get joy from that if we press as well as we did against Villa. But yeah, on to Lampard. I think Everton fans are split. I don't know, really. It's a weird one. I think a lot of Everton fans I've spoken to are surprised he took the job. He took a job outside of London. Stunned he's ended up in Liverpool. But yeah, I can easily see it going wrong. But at the same time, if he gets back to the transfer market, you'll have to wait and see. But let's hope it does go wrong, to be fair, because it is. I've got nothing against Everton, but Everton fans, they can turn quickly. Honestly, first 20 minutes of tomorrow's game, if we start well, Goodison will turn. I just don't think Everton are set up to be a successful club. I think that they're just absolutely chaotic in terms of how they're set up. In terms of Leeds United, again, it's a difficult one with Leeds, obviously, because we're almost victims of our own success, really, if you think about it. In terms of last season, I think everyone going into this season, predictions-wise, I don't think any of us really predicted outside the top 10, really, if we're being totally not that I can remember anyway.
No, maybe down to 12, but we wouldn't have gone much lower. We all would have been quite optimistic,
We're still not kind of like where we are, to be fair. I don't think anyone was looking at like a potential relegation battle, but I just think it's injuries. It might be a very simplistic way of looking at it, but when you're missing a player who had 25 goal contributions just in the Premier League alone, he's been missing for 99% of the season. When he has played, he's scored or assisted in every game, I think, bar the Man United one at the start of the season. So you're missing a really, really important player there. Obviously, the injuries to key defenders, Calvin's been out. You're talking probably system-wise, probably the most important two players for the system. Bamford in terms of the pressing, Phillips in terms of holding the midfield shape together and allowing the front five to kind of just play with freedom to an extent. Absolutely massive losses, those two. And that's been a big, big cause of our problems, really. I think performance-wise, since the turn of the year, I think we've been good. I think we've been really good, to be honest, since the turn of the year. Burnley game, we were superb. West Ham away, we were superb. I thought West Ham in the Cup, we gave a very good account of ourselves. Newcastle, I thought the first hour we were good, to be honest. I think after they scored, we found it difficult then, because Newcastle were able to have the counter-attack on us. And I thought against Villa, we dominated the game, to be honest. We just had a crazy 10 minutes where Coutinho has been the £140 million Coutinho that was at Liverpool, if we're being honest. He's been absolutely outstanding. It doesn't need me to tell you that. I think that's the only reason they got a result from that game. People talk about Ramsey. Ramsey's a very good player as well, but it was all Coutinho for me who made things happen and caused us problems. I thought we made a couple of little silly mistakes in the 3 goals, but ultimately, the thing is, I thought it's going to sound a real hot take, this, but I thought we actually defended quite well against Villa. The thing is,
those 3 goals, I would agree with you.
But the thing is, it's the Premier League. You're going to make mistakes, and against this kind of quality, against the likes of Coutinho, it only takes a mistake, and they're going to punish you. It's not like the Championship. You can make a mistake, you probably get away with it, and we've just found that the hard way this season. I think in every game we've had at least a spell in the game where we've been good or dominant, and I think a bit of it's got to be down to luck as well, if we're being totally honest, in terms of there's no way we're as bad as what the table suggests. And
no,
I'm not worried.
Most people would agree with you on that, to be fair.
I'm not worried, mate. I'm seriously not worried about you guys. To be fair, I think Martin, you've been positive all season. I think you're very much in the same kind of thinking as myself. I think the underlying numbers are good. We're often dominating the ball, more shots, more this and that. When you get a Bamford back into the team, hopefully we start converting things and getting that natural target man in there. But having said that, Dan James was basically Pep Guardiola, Lionel Messi, false 9, Barcelona in that first half against Villa. I mean, the way he's dropping in, I've never seen Dan James play like that before. Clearly, it's been something they've been working on in the last sort of 3 weeks. It's all positive, and I just think tomorrow, Everton, the way they play under Lampard, or the way Lampard has played in the past, possession-based, play out of the back, try and play football at all times, very open. Yes, good going forward. They have got a lot of talent going forward, even if they have got a couple of injuries. I still think we can get at them. I still think the press can cause some problems, and I'm relatively confident going into tomorrow. I'd say more than relatively. I'm quietly confident going into tomorrow.
I don't blame you, mate. I think rightly so, and obviously we will get to. Don't give us your predictions or anything like that. We'll keep predictions for the end. We'll go through the lineups and who we think will play, even though I'm pretty sure everyone will say unchanged lineup, but let's not spoil things. Martin, I'm going to let you do the usual. Fill us in on what little there is to fill us in on regarding Marcelo Bielsa's press conference this morning. I know there's not too much to pick over injury-wise and stuff, but there was some other little bits that I know you'll have picked up on and be interested in. So tell us everything that Bielsa's had to say today.
Well, on the injury front, there's no new injuries, thankfully. So that's always a good thing. And so I think Calvin is still looking towards the beginning of March, so when he comes back. So still as expected. So nothing new on that. He was asked a lot of questions about the Villa game, understandably. And he seems to be quite happy with our performance, especially with Dan James's performance. He did highlight how Dan James was making runs which were creating space for Rodrigo to take advantage of, which makes sense to me. Rodrigo was playing quite advanced for attacking midfield / second strikerish kind of thing he was doing. And I think they really had a good chemistry going there. I've been quite critical of Dan James at times this season. I think a lot of us have. He's limited in some things, but against Villa, he was great. I can't pick many faults other than the odd stray pass here and there. But other than that, there wasn't too much to pick out of Bielsa's press conference. There was a lot of questions, and some of the questions Bielsa rambled a bit on the answer. But when it comes to the Everton game, he didn't say too much about Lampard. Just
that was disappointing.
Yeah, he just basically...
They both put it to bed, and you're just come on, just say some shit about each other.
Yeah, well, unfortunately, we're never going to get that from Marcelo. He's too much of a gentleman, is Marcelo, so he's never going to talk shit.
You just want him to say something about Lampard's wife or his mum or something. Just fucking stick the boot in Marcelo. Come on, let's get this pump back up.
Exactly. You would have loved to see it, but unfortunately not. He said that Lampard hasn't had very long to impose his tactical ideas, so he doesn't really know what to make of what he's going to do with the Everton side yet. Obviously, a much better idea about 5 o'clock tomorrow when hopefully we've beaten them comfortably. But we will see how it goes. Yeah.
And Mike, obviously, watching the Villa game, very entertaining game. Different readings from different people. I know I was talking to Scotty, who was meant to be on tonight, but obviously couldn't join us, but he'll be with me for the watch along tomorrow. And he was saying he wasn't really impressed with Luke Ayling. I was saying I was impressed with Luke Ayling. And I think it's easy, like Oscar was saying, to get drawn into the 3 goals and individual mistakes that led to those goals. But other than the individual mistakes, like Oscar said, I do actually think we performed defensively quite well. And obviously in attack, we struggled to create chances all season, mainly in Bamford's absence, in all honesty, and that moving the burden of creativity onto Rafinha. But I genuinely was really happy with how we played on Wednesday night. What did you think of the game, and who stood out for you?
I thought the right-hand side was poor. Yeah. Both Ayling and Rafinha had awful games to their standards.
Right.
They just weren't. I just couldn't see any link-up play. Ayling would run and lose the ball. Same with Rafinha. I thought we were better on the left-hand side.
Yeah.
And down the middle with James and Rodrigo.
Yeah. Yeah, no, I would agree with you. The right-hand side in general, I think that most people have come out and said Rafinha, for some reason, wasn't at it at all. But for me, I liked Ayling bringing the ball out, and I don't think he did give it away all that much. And I thought defensively as well, he made some big tackles. But like Oscar said, he was up against, in the man-marking system, he was up against technically the 3rd most expensive player of all time at this moment in time. So, and then we did get that version of Coutinho only for 12, 13 minutes, let's be honest. But
I still think, to be fair, I think it was just those 12, 13 minutes where Coutinho just visibly came alive. I think, to be fair, throughout the game, I wasn't worried about Buendia. I wasn't worried about Watkins. I thought, this is where I talk about defensively. I think it's as a Pascal. Pascal is just
solid.
Everyone knows what I think about Pascal. He's absolutely outstanding. He'll go massively under the radar because he didn't make any game-saving tackles, but he just did. He did an absolutely outstanding job on Ollie Watkins. I don't think Watkins got a moment's peace off Pascal, to be honest. And then obviously Buendia, I thought Stewie Dallas did a good job on Buendia to go within the man marking. And in fairness, I think we've just had 2 moments where Coutinho has beaten Ayling. It can happen. As I said, he's the 3rd most expensive player of all time, but Coutinho was the only threat in that game. And in fairness, I thought Ayling did a decent job. But the thing is, it's football, isn't it? It's margins. In terms of Ramsey misses those chances 1-on-1. We're talking about, what did Coutinho do kind of thing. And it's just the margins of football, isn't it? It's a bit like St. Maximan against us, at Ellen Road. I thought he was superb in that game. But I think it was... he missed the chances, but Willock who missed a good chance.
Yeah.
It's a results business, isn't it, at the end of the day? But I think defensively, the way it's working, and I think someone who's getting a lot of not enough praise from me is Robin Koch.
Robin Koch.
I'm going to bring in Robin Koch.
Of course you're going to bring Koch in.
We're only 15 minutes in. 15 minutes in. That's not bad.
Where's your Koch t-shirt gone?
I'm still there. It's still there. It might be getting worn at Everton tomorrow. It might be getting worn at Everton tomorrow. But yeah, I think, look, we've spoken about Calvin a lot in terms of his absence. We haven't got that natural CDM or senior natural CDM. Obviously, Jack Jenkins might be in the future that option. But again, we haven't got a senior natural CDM in the squad. But for me, when you look at the way Cox played since he's gone into that role, since he's come back from injury, I have no faults with Robin Koch. Because, look, people will point to it and say, oh, he's not Calvin, is he? But let's be honest, there's probably only 4 or 5 players at most who are Calvin in this league. You know, your Fabinho's, your Rodri's, Thomas Partey.
I wouldn't even put Thomas Partey there.
Even Thomas Partey's debatable, to be fair. You know, you're not talking a lot of... There's probably a few more I've forgotten, actually. Declan Rice as well, actually. There's not a lot of players there who can do Calvin's job. So it's all well and good talking about the depth problem with Calvin Phillips. There just isn't... He's that good. There isn't that many people that can do what he does. And people might talk about Rafinha in the same light, but again, I can only list your Salahs, your Mahrez's at most, who are kind of at that kind of level for me, you know, in terms of Rafinha. That's the reality now. Into this Premier League, we have got some players who are bordering on world class, to be quite honest with you. You know, another couple of seasons of this form, you know, they're bordering on. I'm not afraid to say it. I genuinely do think, you know, levels of performance from Rafinha this season, and that's just the reality. I think, you know, some of the question marks about depth, there's a question to be asked, but I just think with Calvin and Rafinha and a couple of other players, they're that good that any kind of depth we do bring in, you know, let's be honest. If we had gone and signed the CDM in January, I don't think they would have done a better job than Robin Koch, to be totally honest with you, what he's done in the last 3 or 4 games.
He's been very good the last 3 or 4 games in particular. I
think he's our best option there. I'm going to say that. I think he's our best option without Calvin in terms of backup. From what I've seen of Robin Koch, I still think he's better at centre-back because he is a centre-back. Yeah. But when needs must, I'm not that concerned in terms of Robin. And it's a massive progression for Robin Koch as well, because let's not forget, first game of the season, Robin Koch's only performance in the only game in the first half of the season before he got injured. Yeah. He had a nightmare against Bruno Fernandes, and I don't think anyone's going to deny that. Bruno Fernandes ran off him 3 times and scored a hat-trick. Big progression off Robin Koch. Great character showing.
Yeah, absolutely. I think, like you said, I think most people would prefer to see him at centre-back, but most people would prefer to see Calvin Phillips back in the team, and obviously he's not right now. And the fact that Adam Forshaw, I'd say, from when Forshaw's come back in the team, Forshaw obviously has been man of the match most weeks since recovering from injury. And then obviously he's missed, 1 or 2 games from another little injury as well. Koch stepped in for 3 games, and now Forshaw's going to struggle to get back in, I think, tomorrow. For me, I reckon unchanged lineup again. Sorry to spoil it. And I think most people would say similar, like to Robin Koch.
I think if someone is to come out, for me, it's more likely to be Click than Robin Koch. I would have personally said.
Yeah. No, I can understand that. I think we will get to the lineups, obviously, as boring as that's going to be. But speaking on individual players and stylistic things, and something that has obviously come up in the last few Marcelo Bielsa press conference and to different levels. Dan James at centre forward, which I personally accepted. I ate some words on the player ratings the other night. And Martin, obviously, we have sat here and kind of said his finishing isn't that of a striker. He's a winger, would rather see him play out wide. And Bielsa had the opportunity this morning to go, well, ha, 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 ha. And obviously he didn't. But what did you make of Dan James as a striker the other night? And does that now fill you with confidence that he could easily go and bag again tomorrow?
Well, I wouldn't use this one performance as a thing. Oh, he's a striker now. He can do it now. I'll still think he will always be better as a winger. His profile is that of a winger. That is where most of his strengths do lie. Yes, he did finish well in that game. Well, that doesn't mean that his finishing is going to magically be that way every single game. It's not something that will just suddenly happen like that. You can get purple patches from players, which I think we could well see. Those 2 goals will give him some confidence, and we may get to see him back again tomorrow. We'll see how he goes for it, but Personally, I would always prefer to have someone who is more natural as a centre forward, but I can understand why Bielsa has put in there, because there isn't many analogues to the way Patrick Bamford presses, and of the options we have in that position, even if Dan James wasn't technically an option when the Bamford conundrum kick came up, it's still come out that who's good at pressing? James is good at pressing. Let's try him there. That's what I think. That seems to be the sort of process behind it, and he has slowly been getting better in that position, which it's not as bad as where it was when he first started doing it. But I would still prefer to see someone more natural there, in all honesty, even after the performance against Villa. But that's just me. I'm a bugbear for it, those sort of things.
Yeah, obviously the question will keep coming in and has come in. I'm not going to flash it up just because I'm about to ask it myself anyway. But Mike, I think I already know what you're going to say on this, but Joe Gelhardt is fit. Came on and against Newcastle, there was the question about should he have come on first instead of Tyler Roberts. That's something that Bielsa has then obviously spoken about since and explained why he didn't, which is fair enough. But obviously didn't come on at all. And let's be honest, no attacking changes were made really in the Villa game the other night. And obviously I can understand why, because it was chaotic at the best of times. But especially when Ezri Konsa gets sent off with a few minutes to go, you'd have definitely been bringing Joe Gelhardt on, wouldn't you? And
yeah.
What would you think for Gelhardt at the weekend? He is a Scouser, I believe, Liverpool fan. Oscar, yeah. He's a Liverpool fan. You'd be bringing him on at some point tomorrow, right?
Hopefully.
But,
I'd rather him start, if I'm being honest. But if he doesn't, then you've definitely got to bring him on with good 20 minutes to go. Get on and get at the defence.
Yeah.
Especially with Everton's defence. They're not exactly the best.
Yeah. And the specific question I wanted to ask you that comes from that, obviously, like we've spoken about his being a brilliant impact sub. Do you think he's better as an impact sub, or are you happy to just throw him in and start him despite the age and despite Dan James's performance against Villa? And if there is going to be a change in striker, we've got Rodrigo, who still is yet to actually be given a chance up front. Would you still be going, throw Toffee in there?
I think it's a hard one because he only played, 1 or 2 full games. He's not had a long period of time to show what he can do from the off. And if he's given that game, he will get into it, and then you will see the goals come in and the performances. Whereas a 20-minute sub appearance or 10 minutes here and there, you're not going to see everything.
Yeah, I don't know. I must admit, I'm more in the camp of brilliant impact sub. And for me, like when it gets to an hour, I would let players like Dan James run their centre backs into the ground, and then when it gets to that last half an hour, and if we need a goal or we just need some attacking threat, then I'd be bringing Toffee on, because I think as an impact sub, and the way that Bielsa talks about managing his minutes and slowly but surely giving him a graduation and not just dumping too much on him early. I can agree with the way Bielsa's managed him so far, and I really like it. I think there's no doubting when you watch Joe Gelhardt that he is going to go on to do a hell of a lot more as a centre forward for Leeds United anyway, hopefully in the long term, unless someone comes in and pinches him, than a Dan James will as a striker, or even Rodrigo. I can't see Rodrigo in 5 years' time, when Rodrigo is long gone, and hopefully Joe Gelhardt's still here. We'll look back at the goal return, and I imagine Gelhardt's will blow it Rodrigo's out of the water. Oscar, when it comes to there is one person that's got a bit of stick actually for his performance the other day, and then there's also been rumours today about Barcelona potentially being interested in Illan Meslier. Did you think he had a bit of a poor night? And obviously the Newcastle goal is a bit unlucky and hopefully not going to happen again, but Illan Meslier is still the best goalkeeper we've had since Nigel Martin.
Yeah.
How are you feeling about Meslier at the moment? What's his confidence going to be like after these last 2 games?
I don't think he did anything. I can't really think of maybe the second goal on full form, in terms of the way Melié's played for most of the season, you probably imagine he'd save. But I wouldn't say he's had a poor game against Villa. It was just, I mean,
with his feet.
Yeah, I still think that's probably the area where I think Melié's still got the most development to make. I think he's good with his feet, but I think in terms of the modern day goalkeeper, I still think there's little bits of improvement, and I'm sure he'll admit it himself. He's still 20. We've got to remember, he's still very young for a goalkeeper. I think in terms of, I don't know the exact stats, but I'd imagine out of all the starting goalkeepers in the league, he will be the youngest by a fair distance. I reckon by about 2 years.
Across Europe, there's only really Donnarumma that comes anywhere
in the top 5 leagues. This is the thing, and it's one of them really. I mean, that's something that's very key to remember. Melié had a game last season against Arsenal away. I don't know if you remember, he was probably culpable for 3 out of the 4 goals, if I remember rightly. I think he made a mistake before that, and we've got to remember it's a full season. This 38 games, you're going to have good moments, bad moments, brilliant moments, and it's just all about how you genuinely play. He's going to play week in, week out. He's on number 1 by a distance. In terms of class, and is very much the number 2. There's no real serious competition, I don't think, between those two, and that's something else to mention. So he's going to play every single game. You've got to remember he's going to have moments where it doesn't quite work for him. But let's not forget, at the start of the season, Melié made some absolutely incredible saves, crucial saves. I'm thinking Newcastle away. I'm thinking Crystal Palace at home, 2 massive saves at the end of that game. Brighton away, all big points. Melié has won us a lot more points than he does. And that's the thing. That's what you look at for a goalkeeper. Alisson Becker, probably for me, I'd probably say he's the best goalkeeper in the world at this moment in time in terms of all-round products. He had a terrible time last season. This is it. It's a life for a goalkeeper. A goalkeeper makes mistakes, a goal. I've got no problems with Melié. I've got no concerns at all. I'm sure he'll bounce back. There's no doubt about it. And I think he'll be a big part in terms of us, moving up the league. I've no doubt about that with Melié. And just a quick say on Gelhardt as well. In terms of, for me, there's 2 reasons I don't think Bielsa starts Joe Gelhardt. I think the first reason, and probably the most important reason, is the press. We've got to remember Joe Gelhardt has not played a lot of football up to now. He's not played a lot of football, and I think you've kind of alluded to it as well, Phil. Starting a game and coming on are 2 very, very different things in terms of physicality, in terms of the pressing. You're coming on against tired legs already. And I think Joe Gelhardt is an absolutely unbelievable talent, by the way. And I don't think he's necessarily limited to just being a centre forward. I think there's a little bit of a number 10, a false 9 to Joe Gelhardt, potentially. It's going to be interesting. I think maybe he's got that little extra technical quality than what your standard centre striker would have. I think he definitely has, to be honest. I'd say he's probably the most technical out of all the forwards outside of Rafinha, to be totally honest with you, in terms of what we've got. But the pressing is so crucial to us in terms of keeping the ball. The press against Villa, I thought, was amongst the best pressing performances of the whole season. We forced so many mistakes from Mings, Konza, Douglas Luiz. Especially Konza.
Mings isn't that big a compliment.
Maybe Mings is a bit fair. But Douglas Luiz, I think, is a very secure, technically good player, to be fair. Konza, again, a lot of people have been talking about potentially being an England international at some point. But I think the press is very, very key. I think Dan James' pressing is absolutely outstanding. You can be critical from time to time with Dan James, but there's no doubt about it. His tenacity is absolutely crucial to the press. You know what Rafinha and Jack Harrison are going to do. And I think that's very, very important for us in terms of keeping the ball in that kind of way. But I think, obviously, for me, it's a similar situation to Patrick Bamford and Eddie Nketiah from about 2.5 years ago. Yeah. I think no one would doubt that, like in that situation at the time, Nketiah was probably the better goal scorer than Bamford. In terms of Bamford was missing a lot of chances, like Dan James has. But in terms of general performance, I still think Dan James is doing a lot of the right things. He's still getting a lot of chances. His movement is really, really good. His execution, now that's a separate thing. His execution we can be critical of, but it was much, much better. Much, much better against Villa. He scored 2 goals at the end of the day. But that's a similar kind of debate. I'm not criticising Joe Gelhardt for 1 minute, but when Joe Gelhardt has started, I think Tottenham and Arsenal, he was good in the Tottenham game, a little bit isolated in the Arsenal game. So it's not a case of when Joe Gelhardt started, he scored the hat-trick kind of thing. He's made it an impossible decision for Marcelo Bielsa. I still think we've got to let Joe Gelhardt breathe a little bit kind of thing, in terms of his best performances so far have been off the bench. So for me, personally, I think for the time being, especially with the way Dan James played against Villa, if he can continue to show that level of confidence, link up nicely with Rodrigo, because the whole system changed against Villa, really. Rodrigo was playing a lot higher up the pitch, almost as a second striker, really. It felt like a pivot of Click and Cock. And then Rodrigo, it was almost a 4-4-2 at times, in terms of when we were on the ball, Rodrigo was running ahead of Dan James kind of thing. Yeah. So the concern in terms of have we got a natural striker on the pitch? Well, Rodrigo still is one. And when we use him in that kind of way, when James drops in, Rodrigo can fill in as well. So it doesn't concern me as much now in terms of not having natural goal scorers on the pitch with the way we played against Villa. So again, tomorrow, I tell you what, I think someone said it in the comments, let's start Dan James, see how it goes, and then if it's still level or we've got a chance to really finish the game or we're behind, whatever the situation is, if the opportunity is there to put Joe Gelhardt on and maybe move Dan James to the left or take Dan James off, keep Harrison on the left, we've got the options. This is the thing now. We've got options. We can move the attack around a little bit. It's great to have options, really. And obviously, we've still got probably the number one striker in the team in terms of Patrick Bamford. So it's just, for me, it's a positive having the options. And I 100% back Bielsa on this. And I just think it's one of those things, in terms of Bielsa's made a lot of not controversial decisions, but decisions that other managers wouldn't have taken. Again, we're going back years ago now, but other managers wouldn't have sold Pontus Jansson and brought in Ben White. This is the thing. Bielsa, this is the beauty of Bielsa. He sees things other people don't see. No one would have said Calvin Phillips was a holding midfielder 4 years ago. He spots it. He's seen something in Dan James, and to be fair, he's beating Tyrone Mings in the headers kind of thing. So, there's some. I'm actually really happy with where we are as a team at this moment in time. I just think it's a matter of time until the results start to turn for us. For me,
Well, mate, if we were to get our players back, don't get me wrong, I do think 9th was an overperformance last season, but not by a great deal. I think fully fit squad this season, we're at least 2 or 3 places higher, and obviously at the start of the season, I don't think I was alone in saying I thought we could finish anywhere from 7th, as high as 7th, down to like 12th, 13th, and I still think with a few players back in, we don't know when Bamford's back, but realistically, after this horrible run of 3 games that follows the Everton game, Man United, Liverpool, and Tottenham in a week, chances are we've got.
But I still think we can cause Tottenham and Man United big problems, especially at home. This is the key thing. I think Tottenham and Man United, mentality-wise, I think they're weak. I do think they're weak, to be fair. And I think in a hostile atmosphere, we get at them in the first couple of minutes. The press is good. I think we can cause teams like that problems. Harry Maguire under a press at Ellen Road, I think there's problems there for him. Eric Dyer, the same kind of thing. But I just think, in terms of where we are as a team right now, I think it's the best they've felt about us all season. And I think you've got to look at it in terms of...
not that difficult, though. It has been a tough season.
No, that's fair. But I think performance-wise, we're putting in the consistent... probably 4 of the last 5 games have been really happy with how we played, to be honest. I think we bounced back really well from that Arsenal game because, let's be honest, everyone was a little bit nervous after that Arsenal game in terms of, obviously we've just been beat by City as well. But you've got to look at other things as well. In terms of the summer, when we brought in Junior Firpo's big strength is crossing into the box, is going forward. We've seen it at Barcelona. Was the big part of the attacking dynamic on that left-hand side, Firpo crossing into Bamford getting on the end of things. Situation is, neither player's been available to us this season. So we've dealt with the situation really well. I think other teams down there, imagine Brentford. Imagine if Brentford had Ivan Toney out for 99% of the season. They'd be relegated now. They'd be down
Patrick
now.
Bamford has not been out for 99%. He's played 23% of the season. I did it this morning. Yeah, 23%.
What, of the minutes or
of the
games?
Minutes. No, of the minutes.
Wow.
You don't read my article, clearly. Fucking get rid of it.
That one.
Jesus, remove from stream. I'm not having that. It's on the All Leeds TV fucking thing, you prick. Read it. Right, I'll put you back up there.
I'll read it.
Right, okay.
All right, 77% of the season he's been out then. If Brentford had Ivan Toney out for 3/4 of the season, they would be in even worse trouble than what they are now.
So, Martin, moving on anyway. I want you to sort of give us a bit of an idea of the tactical battle, if you can call what Frank Lampard does tactics, was that we can expect tomorrow. Obviously, Fat Frank has laid the foundations for a Champions League winning team. He's a well-renowned coach. We all know how difficult tomorrow will be tactically because, you know, we've played Frank Lampard 5 times in the last few years, and only when he's had a £500 million squad has he actually done anything decent against us for more than 10 minutes. What can we expect from Fat Frank's Everton tomorrow?
Well, tactically, I don't know too much about them other than that they are trying to change the way that they are playing, not being quite as direct as what they were under Benitez. I do know that they are sticking to a similar shape to what Benitez was playing, which is the 3-4-3. Since Dele Alli's come in, he's been using him as an inside forward. That was a conundrum which he had to face when he signed 2 players who are pretty much identical in what they offer in a game of football. They're both similar strengths, both good at off the ball running, better suited to be an attacking midfielder. Van der Beek and Ali. Van der Beek was playing a bit deeper in central midfield rather than attacking midfield, so that's something to look forward to. It will mean that we will be playing a 4-4-2, most likely, at least when we aren't in possession of the ball. So that'll look pretty similar to what we saw against, I think it was Spurs, who we played a 4-4-2 against, because they played something similar to that.
Chelsea as well, I think.
Yeah, I believe so, yeah. Yeah, so we played a 4-4-2 a couple of times. Obviously, it does change slightly when we are in possession of the ball. Players move around a little bit here and there, but it will pretty much be that, other than slight shifts here and there. So it's going to be interesting, but I do think that we should be able to cope quite well because Lampard hasn't had the squad for long. He won't have been able to change much, really, in terms of what the squad does, and their morale will be quite low after some of the recent bad performances, especially after how they conceded 3 goals against Newcastle, which wasn't that much of a different side to what we face, and they managed to get 1 lucky goal against us from Voldemort himself. I don't get how you can see that many goals against that team, but maybe the new players are having a bigger impact, and maybe we should be a bit nicer to Frank Lampard because he's a sensitive soul. He might cry. We don't want to make him cry now, guys. We don't want to be accused of bullying. He might call his Uncle Harry, and that'll really teach us.
Yeah.
But no, I have not watched Everton. I have not had time to watch them in the past few weeks, being ill, and then watching other games. But yeah, we'll be interesting to see how it goes. But I'm pretty confident that we can deal with whatever they can throw at us.
They've got a lot of injuries as well, obviously. Like in the Newcastle game, I think it was first half, obviously, Yerry Mina's limped off. He's out for fucking 10 weeks. Damari Gray, who basically, him and Calvert-Lewin took us apart for the first hour on the opening day of the season. They could have been 4-1 up by the time that we eventually, in all honesty. Like, I thought 2-2, we got away with it a bit on the opening day of the season. Even game, but obviously without players like Damari Gray, Yerry Mina's out. Defensively, they've got a load of injuries. Godfrey could be out as well. Decore, most assists for them all season, he's out. Mike, where do you kind of see this game being won and lost? And I'm assuming that you're quite confident Leeds are going to win, but where do you think we win this game?
I think we win it on the wings, playing balls in, and then hopefully in the air as well. Like, they can be got at a lot. I think they're even from corners, they've conceded a fair bit from corners, so we could attack them that way as well.
That wide battle is, from what I imagine, I mean, obviously we'll get onto the lineup very, very shortly, but on the right, if we have Rafinha, he's likely to be up against, if the last game was to be believed, Andros Townsend at left wing back. And on the other side, Jack Harrison will probably be against Seamus Coleman. I can see why you'd be quite confident in those two. You're looking forward to seeing Rafinha versus Townsend.
Even if they've got that Ukrainian guy I'm
Yeah.
not
Michael
big.
Anko.
Yes, well, I can't pronounce his name.
I believe as well.
Yeah, I thought he was out. There's him and Delph both out as well. Tom Davis out. They're like us, but blue and scouse.
Isn't DCL out as well?
Yeah, he's still
slowly recovering. He was on the bench the other night.
Unused sub, wasn't he? I think the other night.
I wouldn't be surprised to see him back in their starting lineup, to be honest, just because they are so depleted. For me, I think if Damari Gray comes out, I could imagine Richarlison being shoved out wide like he was the first time we played them, and DCL up front.
Either way, I still think that the wings are most important for us.
We've got more strength out in wide positions, definitely. I would agree there. We'll come on to the lineups, and I don't want to just ruin it by asking everybody unchanged lineup, and you all go yes. So I'm going to just throw it out there. Your goalkeeper's Ilhan Meslier. We've already established that for the last 21 games of the season. But Oscar, you're back for tomorrow, please. And if you want to vary it,
what I would go with, or what Bielsa would go with.
What would you go with, Oscar?
It's a difficult one, isn't it? It's a difficult one because maybe controversial, but I think Llorente, in terms of form-wise, I don't think it's been great. To be totally honest,
with me at all, mate.
No, I think. I think Llorente.
Don't let Gale hear you slag Llorente off because I get murdered for it.
His form, I think Llorente is still a very good player, but I think maybe last couple of games he has made a couple of mistakes. Again, I've said it with Meslier as well. So the temptation would be, with Forshaw back available, to move Robin Koch back into centre-back alongside Strick. But for me, I wouldn't disturb it too much. I think the way we fought back in the second half, the facts, I thought, as a team, we were a lot better second half. Villa didn't have a chance against us. It doesn't really make any sense for me to change the back four. So I'd keep the back four the same. Ayling, Llorente, Strick, Dallas. And do you want it to go on?
1 minute, sorry. First of all, need to flash that up. I know, Gail, and then definitely need to flash this up. There has been a couple of comments on that Barnet tonight, Oscar. Are you doing some sort? I know you did Movember. Are you doing some sort of hair growing charitable?
I'm just throwing it out a little bit. What's the problem, man?
I think you look lovely, mate. It's fine.
Again, you've not been watching my videos either. This has been quite not a recent thing. This.
I thought you were just looking at Martin and getting jealous and trying to
Martin's is just insane. Them days are long gone for me.
Martin, who's your back four, mate?
I will probably say it will more than likely be unchanged. I don't think it'll be any different to what we saw against Villa. But personally, I would also do what Oscar said and bring in Robin Koch into defence and take out Llorente. I think he's a bit more stable than what Llorente is. He may maybe not offer as much wild passing as what Llorente can. However, that wild passing can quite often be our own undoing. So, yeah, I'll be fine to keep the lineup unchanged, but maybe have Koch in there rather than Llorente.
Sorry,
I am worth it.
Oh, that's amazing. Oh, sorry. Mike, who's your back four, mate?
Well, if we're on the case of dropping Llorente, I'll put Calder in there instead.
Oh, you rogue motherfucker. But then you've got two left-footed centre-backs. You don't care.
Yeah. No, I don't.
Yeah, it's fine.
And then you've got Dallas on the left as well.
Fuck it, great. It's just get a load of left-backs on. It'll be fine. Let's get Fabi and Delph back, James Milner. They can all play there. Are you going to put any right-footers in the team? No?
No.
Okay, fair enough. Thanks for coming. And moving on. No, I must admit, I do agree with, Gail will know because she avidly watches me constantly slag off Diego Llorente, or at least attempt to not slag him off, only because I know it upsets her. But he does drive me mental because he does have that thing about him where when he has the ball, he has to do something mad with it. And when he's not got the ball, he has to do something mad to try win it back. It's all mad.
What I'll say is football's all about balance in terms of when Llorente's on the ball, I've got no problem in terms of when he sees that pass.
Yeah.
If it's 75% on, if it's 75% on, and if he doesn't make it, it's from just poor execution. I've got no problem with that. It's when, say against Villa, when Villa was starting to build a little bit of momentum in that sort of 10-minute spell, 10-15-minute spell before half time. It was just, going for it then. I was a little bit unhappy with. But to be fair, second half, I thought much more disciplined on the ball. And to be fair, look, it has led to some chances this season. It was a big feature of his game last season. I've got no problem in terms of Llorente's defensive style because I think it works well with Schurik. Schurik's the balanced one, keeps calm, doesn't dive in, stays in position. Llorente, is a little bit more, a lot more on the front foot than Schurik, and I just think it balances itself out quite well.
I agree that they are the antithesis of each other. Pascal is very much
that's good.
Collected and
the best centre-back pairings. That's always been, in terms of Sergio Ramos and Varane at Real Madrid were the polar opposites in terms of style. PK and Puyol at Barcelona. There's completely different kind of personalities and style of play. There's no problem at all for me, in terms of having that. It's just a balance. Just sometimes, but to be fair, second half a lot better from Llorente. I think Robin Koch, to be fair, the reason I mentioned Robin Koch is the fact that he's right-footed.
Yeah,
he's similar to Llorente, but a little bit more strict. Like he's a little bit less front foot than Llorente, but probably still more front foot than strict kind of thing. He's kind of like the middleman between the two for me. But I like the fact that all 5 if you include Creswell, 6 if you include Yelder, they all offer something a little bit different in terms of defensive style, and I think that's a good thing to have in terms of being able to put together different partnerships. And I think it's really good squad building in that area of the pitch, to be honest.
I know you're going to shut me down quite quickly and tell me you have no inside knowledge, but Llorente pulled up at one point earlier the other night, and I thought he might go off and hopefully Koch would have gone into right centre-back like we're all talking about now, and then Forshaw come on in that position. Llorente's okay to start tomorrow, right, Oscar?
I genuinely have no idea. I genuinely have no... You're making me laugh now because I have no inside... I don't have inside knowledge on the team, do I? No, I don't have a clue.
Just checking.
I don't have a clue, to be fair.
So if you
I don't even remember that. I don't remember that situation though when Llorente pulled up. I remember Schurik with his hands.
He went down for a while and he was punching the floor.
I remember that.
In real pain. And
I just remember Schurik with when he landed on his arm. I don't remember Llorente.
It seemed to be his foot that he was feeling around at.
His ankle, I think.
In pain and punching the floor.
But anyway, I'd be surprised if Llorente's not starting the game. I'd be very surprised if we do that tomorrow. In terms of putting Robin Koch in.
In your scenario, though, when you have that starting defence, who starts in your midfield then? If you've got your midfield 4,
what in terms of if everyone's available, if Calvin's available?
No. As in tomorrow, you said you would put Koch at the back and you'd drop Llorente. Like who would?
No. I wouldn't do that. I just said it's a debatable point, and if the game starts going wrong and we need to try and be a bit more on the front foot, there's a case for putting Koch in there and putting Forshaw or Click in. But for me personally, whoa, Mike, what's happening there, man? I think I would put Forshaw in. I've got no problem with Click's performances. I think Click's been good. Certainly since the turn of the year. Again, that's a controversial take because people are saying, "Oh, no, you can't rephrase Click." But for me, I'll put Forshaw in alongside Robin Koch because I think now we've got that 4 in terms of certainly for the short term until Bamford's back. That's going to work well together. We've seen it. Rafinha, Rodrigo, Harrison, and James. I think we're going to keep that system. I think we're going to continue to play like a pivot of Koch and Forshaw or Click. And I think it's a good... something else Bielsa deserves praise for is that he's not actually like for like tried to replace Calvin. He's switched the system up to make it easier for Robin Koch. Yeah. On the ball, he's always got someone to his left or right. He's not on his own in the build-up. He's not having to pick the ball up off the centre-backs and he's surrounded by a press. He's got someone alongside him in terms of Forshaw or Click who can drop in as well. And he's got loads of runs ahead of him. So we're able to stretch the pitch and create a bit of space for the likes of Robin Koch. And I think Bielsa deserves great praise for that. Little switches like that. And I think we'll continue to see this 4-2-3-1 until Calvin's back. Interesting to see if we will change back to a 4-1-4-1. But I just think we've really handled the Calvin situation well. I think in terms of that was my big worry. In terms of when you got that second injury. In terms of when we started conceding 7-2 City, 4-1 against Arsenal, we were looking a little bit stretched in the middle of the pitch. I think that's what he'll do tomorrow. I think Forshaw will come back in, and it's a bit of competition then between Forshaw and Click for that position in the other midfield position for the time being.
Sorry, Gail, you've been watching this channel long enough to know how childish I am. You can't send that in and expect me not to say anything. So that's all I'm going to say, and then I'm going to follow it up with the next comment, which is even better. But yeah, thanks, brilliant. Martin, who's in your midfield tomorrow?
The players I'd choose are we just talking about the central midfielders, or do you want all of the four?
Yeah, just fuck it. You were going 4, then go 4, and then we'll do the 2. Go 4-4-2. Give me 4.
Yeah. I'm not. The one thing I'm not sure of is where Rafinha is going to play, because when we played one of the 4-4-2s last time, Rafinha was playing up front rather than on the wing. So I've got a feeling that we could well see either Dan James or Harrison on the right rather than Rafinha. Then the middle two, I think, will probably Forshaw and Click. And then on the left, it'll be either Harrison or James, whichever one isn't on the other side.
You think Robin Koch gets dropped?
I think so, yeah. I think he'll be the one who's likely to drop because we won't need a pivoty player in the system because...
So you're not going on change lineup. You think there will be a change?
Yeah, I do think there will be a change. I'm not sure which player it will be, but because Everton only play with 2 central midfielders, we don't need as much solidity in midfield. So I think we may end up seeing Koch drop out and stay on the bench.
Nice.
So it's never good to see Koch be dropped, but...
Do you not think though, Martin, in terms of if Dele Alli or Van der Beek start the game, in terms of probably more natural number 10, it's if Everton do go with the same system, but for me, it depends obviously on the shape, but I would still say Robin Koch over Click, just purely stopping those runs from Dele Alli or Van der Beek, what they always like to do, space invaders, round noises, whatever they get called, whatever the fancy name is for them, number 10s that like to attack the box, late kind of thing, like Lampard did himself as a player.
Space invaders. I've not heard that one before.
I think Oscar's thinking of the Ramdotter, a German term. Space investigator, I think, is the term. Right. It's a German position, usually from the wide areas, who tend to drift around and find.
It's a fancy term. You know what I mean, Martin? You know what I mean? It's a fancy term. But for me, I'd still rather Robin Koch being a more natural centre back. I don't mind the idea of Robin Koch following him all the way into the box in that kind of sense, rather than Click or Forshaw. I think he's more natural at doing that.
I think it's because the reason why I say it is because I think Dele Alli is more likely to be played on the wing, because that's what happened when he came off the bench. He played as an inside forward. So I think the midfield too for Everton will most likely be I think Doucouré and Van der Beek. That's what I think will happen. And so I was listening to
that is open though, isn't it?
It is pretty open.
Midfield that you can get at.
Yeah,
defensively.
Is Doucouré out?
Yeah.
Okay. Well, it'll be someone else alongside him then.
But isn't Gordon playing though?
Possibly Alan. Sorry.
Gordon.
I'm not sure about him. Yes, Ramdorfer is good.
Control of the comments, Jesus.
But yeah,
I'm defending myself.
No, mate, I just enjoyed it.
The pronunciation wasn't great. That's the problem.
I thought you were talking about crisps. I just assumed that you were comparing Dele Alli to a bag of crisps or something. I didn't know what you were talking about. Mike, who's in your midfield tomorrow, mate?
Koch and Forshaw.
Of course.
Why is that of course? I probably would have Click on the bench and then Rafinha on the right, Jack on the left. And then James up front with Rodrigo just behind him.
Oh, you just jump the gun. You throw your fucking 2 in as well. Go on.
Yeah, I did.
You don't care about the next round of questions, do you? You just want it all now. Go on, tell us what the front 2 are going to do and how it's going to work then.
Well, I just think that Rodrigo will play off James again, and I'm going to say he scores.
Mate, to be fair, I thought they rotated really well, like Oscar said earlier the other night. And he's had so much stick, admittedly from me, in recent weeks that a goal would do him so much good. If anyone needs a goal, I'd say Rodrigo is the man. And obviously, Rafinha's got a brilliant record, 3-3, scored every time he's played Everton so far in a Leeds shirt. I'd love to see goals for the pair of them, but you're going nailing your colours to the mast early and going Rodrigo for a goal tomorrow, yeah?
Yeah, just so Scott can eat his words on the watch along.
Speaking of the watch along, Scott,
This tomorrow.
Plug it. I will plug it at the end like I normally do anyway, Scott, but I'll plug it now. We'll be going live at 2:30. Me and the missus are joining Scott, probably with the baby, so it'll probably end up just being me when the missus has to run out and deal with the baby. But yeah, we are all coming live to you at 2:30. Give a bit of lineup reaction and then hopefully see Leeds United win. Martin, who's up front for you tomorrow then? Your front two.
It's going to, I think, Rodrigo and Rafa. The reason why I say that is because the reason why I don't think he'll be on the wing is because of the way Everton's structure of pose, their wing backs will likely get quite high. So if he is on the wing, he will likely be a lot deeper than what we would want him to be. If he is up front, he is in a much more dangerous position, and in possession, he can move from the striking position to be in a winger quite easily. If he plays on the right side of the front two, he'll give us a lot of options to get him as close to goal as we can, while also retaining some of the movement that he can give us on the wings, cutting inside and all the rest of that. Rodrigo up top, he can drop down deeper to help out in build-up with the central midfielders because he likes to drop deeper. So I think that's why Rodrigo will be chosen, but who knows with Bielsa, it could be anything, but that's just what I think will happen. And to be honest, that's what I would like to happen to. I think that could work quite well against Everton's centre-backs, who they are quite depleted and they're missing their best centre-back, who is Yerry Mina. God.
Biggest shift as well.
Yeah, imagine if Yerry Mina was your best centre-back. I mean, I don't rate him at all, but the centre-backs they do have, a lot of them are pretty stodgy. Michael Keane especially, he's not the biggest mover, and if faced with a combination of Rafinha and Rodrigo, I think that would put him into an early grave. So yeah, I'm looking forward to that hopefully happening.
Oscar, who's up front for you tomorrow?
Exactly the same as the lads have said. I think obviously James will be on paper the centre forward, but I think it'll be very much Rodrigo playing just behind him, and it will resemble a 4-4-1-1, 4-4-2 on the ball, whatever way you want to kind of pull it, off the ball rather. But yeah, I think it works quite well. And what I also want to mention is that, and it's not a phrase I particularly like, but I think we all know Rodrigo in terms of his pressing, it's not one of his stronger points. I think he's improving in that regard. I think certainly against Villa, Newcastle, I thought he was better in that kind of specifically in that kind of regard of his game. We almost playing a 4-4-2. You almost kind of hide Rodrigo a little bit from the press, if that makes sense. You know, we've seen kind of teams do it with Ronaldo and Salah in the past. Certainly Salah at Liverpool, Klopp does it really well, and we sort of did a similar thing in the Villa game. You know, we know James is a very, very good presser, and that gap between James and the midfield isn't as big now. We're compact, you know, when we do press. You know, it's not a case of if the team can get past James, they've then got acres of space to play into, and that was what was causing problems at the start of the season in terms of teams having too much time to look up. No one's coming towards them. Got time to look up, pick a pass, and you know, in the Premier League, every single team has got someone who's got that quality to pick a pass and sort of pick us open a little bit. I just think in that shape, in terms of Rodrigo and James there together, it's a much, much more solid shape to go with. And as I said before about the pivot as well, you know, Cock and Click or Click, Forshaw, whichever midfield two it is, they can go together as well and the whole team can push up. And that's what we did superbly against Villa. Everton out the back, I seriously think Dan James following Michael Keane all over the pitch is going to cause a mistake from Michael Keane at some point in the game. We know Jordan Pickford can get very, very emotional as well in games, and he can be pressed too. I just think Everton, technical quality-wise, outside of Van der Beek and Doucouré, I don't think there's a lot of technical quality about this Everton team. They've got a lot of goal scorers, I'll give them that. You know, Richarlison, Calvert-Lewin have got goals in them, there's no doubt about it. Ducory can get a goal, Ali can get a goal, Van der Beek can get a goal. But I just think in terms of getting up the pitch, it's going to be very, very difficult for Everton tomorrow. In terms of our pressing, I just think we're going to be really good in that regard. And I think that, almost like, if you remember that Southampton game earlier in the season, when probably our poorest performance of the season, I'm hoping for something like that from us tomorrow, where Everton are so depleted injury-wise, we're pressing so well, we can cause them problems in that regard and create a lot of chances. And really, with Lampard teams aren't the most solid at the back of the best at times. We all know that. How many goals we scored against Lampard teams is absolutely crazy. To be
honest, when you're talking about depleted as well, like you mentioned Arsenal earlier, when we played Arsenal, I think that was the peak of our injury crisis, when we were just absolutely to the bare bones. Archie Gray on the bench again. No offense to Archie Gray, but we were down to the bare bones. Really should have had it called off, but didn't. Hopefully,
Rafinha got rushed from Brazil, before the game, didn't they? Like an hour before the game, or not quite an hour before the game, but a day before the game. That was how, in terms of really, really badly we needed Rafinha there. But for me, I do feel pretty decent about it in terms of that regard. I think off the bench, we're going to have at least one Cock or Forshaw on the bench to come on. Toffee as well. Other options, Jamie Shackleton, handy little option. Jamie Shackleton can come on for Ayling. He can come on for one of the midfield too. He's a nice option to have as well. Probably a few more players I've probably forgotten about as well. I just think it's a decent situation we're in at this moment in time. Probably the best situation we've been in since Bamford got the big injury. KP got the big injury, but I feel relatively good about tomorrow's game. And at the end of the day, as long as we don't get beat, that's the main thing. It might seem a really negative thing to say, but a point at Everton, a point at Villa is a nice little start. There's no such thing as a bad points away from home in the Premier League. I think we can win the game. We will play to win the game. But Everton have still got good players. Let's not doubt that. I know we've got our big questions about Lampard as a manager, but he has got the players to bail him out. Unfortunately, that is the case. But I still think we've got a real chance in this game tomorrow. Real chance. If we were to win, all of a sudden that probably puts us above Brentford, unless Brentford do beat Palace.
Palace as well.
Psychologically, I think that's massive. Absolutely massive if we can win that game. And it's almost like last season. We went into that horrible run of games last season. We got the wins. I can't remember who it was we beat. But it kind of spurred us on then for the City game, which we won. The Liverpool game we got a result out of. The Spurs game we won. We drew it over to Man United. That's what I'm kind of hoping for from tomorrow's game. We can put in another performance like yesterday, beat Everton. If we can get that win, I think it puts a whole different look on that Man United game, the Liverpool game, the Tottenham game. I really do.
Yeah. No, I'm very much in your camp. I've of the opinion that as much as I know you said it, and you said it yourself, it's a generic Leeds United fan being paranoid but thinking negatively. It is a must not lose. If we do come away tomorrow with a draw, it's better than losing that game. It could be a 6-pointer to them. I don't think it's necessarily a 6-pointer to us. But if we win it, we will definitely be sat there going, we're safe, they're in trouble. And with what everyone's been talking about, get your comments in. Let us know what your predictions for tomorrow are. I've flashed a few up already. Big Scott going really confident on this 5-0. I don't think 5-0 is going to happen.
That is not a good sign. I repeat, that is not a good sign. If it's
5-0 is probably a tad too overzealous. But Mike, did you go 2-0, mate?
No. It's either going to be a scrappy one. It's either going to be a scrappy 1-0 win, or it's going to be a 5-3.
5-3.
Yes.
Fucking hell. We've got a 4-4 here as well. So everyone's basically everyone thinks there's going to be goals. Clearly, obviously, it was a bit mental the other night. So why not? Who's getting? Are we scoring 5?
Yeah.
So who's scoring these 5 goals for us then?
Rafinha 2.
Right. I can do that.
Cock to score.
Wow.
Rodrigo and James or Jack.
Right, okay. Yes.
But here's a question, though, with the formation for Everton.
Yeah.
Mistake me if I'm wrong. On the Brentford game, didn't they play 5 at the back? And then when the last game, they played a 4-3-3?
I thought it was more like a 3-4-2-1, like a shit Christmas tree vibe going on. But Martin, you're the man for shapes and sizes. Tell me all about it.
To be honest, I can't remember off the top of my head. I know that it wasn't a standard formation that we often play, but I am very quickly going to find out.
I'm sure they played 2 different formations.
Transfer Market says 3-4-3 if that's where you're checking for both of the last 2 games.
Nope, not Transfer Market.
Where are you looking?
Yeah, but they all say different things, don't they?
Yeah, they all say different things.
It's from what they've got on here. This looks right. It was back 5 with 3 central midfielders and 2 strikers. They played Mbuemo and Sergi Canos up front, and I do remember that being right because if you remember, what's his name had COVID, so they didn't play him. They played Canos instead up front, which was an unfamiliar position for him. We was thinking before the game that they were only going to play 1 striker up front because they only had Mbuemo available, but they played Canos up front as well. So yeah, it was a 3-5-2.
So now that you've had that confirmed, Mike, what was the question you wanted to ask based on them having a back 5?
No, it's just that I thought they played 2 different formations because originally we all said it, that they were going to play a 4-4-2, wasn't it?
I think it was us who played 2 different formations because we had to adjust to their formation change. We were expecting them to only play 1 striker up front, and it ended up being different to that. I think that could have been one of the games where Llorente ended up playing at right back. Because of that, because we had the 1 extra centre back on the pitch. But that's just me trying to remember what happened in that game. But I think we definitely did have more than 1 formation during that game.
Okay, so Martin, while I'm on to you, give me your score prediction for tomorrow, and if you are going for plenty of goals for Leeds United, who gets them?
I'm going 3-1. We'll go into half time at 1-1. After I'm not sure which team scores first, that doesn't really matter. But the goal should come off Rafinha. Second half, we'll leave it quite late and score 2 late goals. 1 from Toffee off the bench, and I'm going to go Dan James another 1.
Fair dues. And Oscar, what's your opinion on tomorrow, mate? What do you reckon for a score prediction, and who gets?
Yeah, I'm similar kind of thinking to Martin. I think maybe 2-1. I think both teams are maybe, certainly against Villa, it'll be maybe not quite the same intensity. Obviously, playing the Villa Everton, have had that extra day's rest, which. Again, I'm not a Premier League footballer, but apparently that is a big thing. Again, it just is. But yeah, I think we will win this game. I'm going to go 2-1. I think Rodrigo scores. I agree with Mike. And I think Rafinha's record against Everton is absolutely outstanding. We've mentioned before, obviously Dean's left the club. New signing back is unavailable in this game. They're playing Andres Townsend at left wing back. I'm confident. And Rafinha, look, no one's going to doubt Rafinha had a quiet game on Wednesday night. Rafinha very, very rarely puts 2 quiet games together. And the averages tell you Rafinha will be back 100% on it tomorrow. And that's it. And I've got no doubt about it. And if he is, I think we've got a massive chance to win this game. 2-1 Leeds United. And I think it'll be a good performance as well.
Yeah.
Anyway.
No worries. Thank you very much for joining us tonight, Oscar. And if everyone was worried, he is clearly still alive.
I'm still here. Check out
Oscar.
Guys.
It's a good Oscar puppet, that. Very, very good Oscar puppet that you got built, Phil.
I
know.
Before you go, I just need you to give us one of these before you go. A smash there,
Smash that like button, guys. Smash the like button. Subscribe if you haven't done already. We are pushing towards 25,000 subscribers, which is absolutely incredible. If you can help us along the road, absolutely superb, guys. Plenty of games coming up, and plenty of content coming up as well. And I just want to see Rodrigo score just purely for Scott's reaction. I'm going to leave you on that note. I'll see you later, guys. See you later.
See you later, Oscar. Thank you for joining us, mate. That's annoying, obviously. We told everybody if we got to 30,000 subscribers, we'd let him live. You all know that's not happening now. We are going to have to kill him. I'll move on to my prediction for tomorrow. I have gone 2-0 to Leeds. I have copied the goal scorers from Mike, and again also from Oscar. I think we will win. I think it will be a good game. I think if we play to the level that we played against Villa the other night, I think we have too much for them. They are massively depleted. Rafinha has been quiet, hasn't scored for 4 league games, but obviously a brilliant record against Everton, has scored every time. And fingers crossed he can continue that. Rodrigo, again, was brilliant the other night in comparison to some of his recent performances, and it looks like him and Dan James are building that understanding. So I would like to see goals for Rafinha and Rodrigo tomorrow, and a 2-0 win for Leeds United. We are going to be back, like I said. Gail wants to know, what's the baby going for, Mike?
Pardon?
What's the baby going for, score-wise?
3-0.
Is he just copying you? Sorry.
She.
Fuck me. You could have at least varied it to make it sound like she's actually told you. Come on. No, well, I think we'll probably leave it there, guys. Please do join us tomorrow. Me and Scott will be going live at 2:30 for the watch along. And obviously, keep your eye on the channel for all the content that's going to come around the Everton game this weekend. And as Oscar said, he said it better than I ever could. Smash that like if you haven't already, and subscribe to the channel. Thank you very much for joining me tonight, Mike and Martin. It's lovely to have you both back with me, and I will hopefully see you all again very soon. Mike, I know you can't say anything to us, but can you just wave like this and maybe even give a baby wave like that? And Martin, bonsoir, mate. All the best.